some stories are never finished. They're just filed away. Welcome to Chronicles of the Obscure. The year is 1952. Dust and the desert sun beat down on a team of archaeologists working in a cave near the desolate shores of the Dead Sea. This is Cave 3, one of many pockmarking the limestone cliffs of Qumran. For years, this region has been surrendering its secrets. The team has been painstakingly recovering the Dead Sea Scrolls, a library of ancient Jewish texts hidden away for 2 millennia, a discovery that has fundamentally rewritten our understanding of religious history. As they reach the very back of the cave, their work nearly complete, they find something that doesn't belong. Amidst the brittle fragments of pottery and linen-wrapped parchment, there are 2 strange, greenish rolls. They aren't parchment. They aren't papyrus. They're made of metal, thin sheets of heavily oxidized copper, rolled up and fused shut by time. They are impossibly heavy and so fragile that any attempt to unroll them would turn them to dust. For 4 long years, the scrolls sit in a museum in Jerusalem, a silent enigma. Scholars are baffled. Finally, a team at the Manchester College of Technology in England devises a radical solution. They carefully coat the outside of the scroll in adhesive and, with a high-speed saw, meticulously slice the roll into 23 semicircular strips. It's a high-stakes gamble, a form of archaeological surgery. As the strips are laid out and the strange, hammered-in text is deciphered, a new mystery unfolds. The content is nothing like the other scrolls. There are no psalms, no prophecies, no community rules for an ascetic sect. Instead, it is a list, written in dry, bureaucratic detail. A list of 64 locations, each with a corresponding cache of hidden treasure. This is the Copper Scroll, and it is either the most valuable archaeological document ever found, a literal map to the lost wealth of a great temple, or it is history's most elaborate and enduring practical joke, etched in metal for eternity. Let's step into the evidence locker and examine this puzzle piece by piece. First, the object itself. The scroll is made of nearly pure copper with about 1% tin. In the ancient world, this was an incredibly expensive and difficult medium to work with. Writing on papyrus was common. Inscribing a detailed text of this length onto a sheet of metal was an enormous undertaking. The material choice alone screams, this is important. This must survive. The text wasn't written with ink. It was painstakingly chiseled and hammered into the copper, letter by letter. Then there's the language. It's written in a form of Hebrew that's different from the formal, literary Hebrew of the other Dead Sea Scrolls. This is Mishnaic Hebrew, the colloquial, spoken language of the people at the time. It's filled with unusual spellings and grammatical quirks, almost like reading someone's private notes rather than a sacred text. And the descriptions are maddeningly cryptic to us today. It points to places like in the ruin that is in the valley of Achor, in the cistern which is under the wall of the eastern court, or under the black stone. These are not coordinates on a GPS. They are landmarks that only a local from 2,000 years ago would recognize. And the inventory, the list is simply staggering. It details enormous quantities of gold and silver, not in coins, but in talents, an ancient unit of weight. For example, entry number 1 reads, in the fortress which is in the Vale of Achor, 40 cubits under the steps entering to the east, a money chest and its contents, of a weight of 17 talents. That's almost 1,300 pounds of silver. Another entry lists 65 bars of gold. The scroll also inventories aromatic spices, priestly garments, and ritual vessels used for tithes and offerings. The total estimated value of everything listed, if converted to today's market prices, would easily run into the billions of dollars. So what does it all mean? Let's head to the theory board. Theory 1 is the one everyone wants to believe, the temple treasure map. The historical backdrop is perfect. In 70 AD, after a brutal 4-year revolt, the Roman legions, led by the future Emperor Titus, besieged and destroyed Jerusalem, including its magnificent Second Temple. The historian Josephus describes the temple as a place of almost unimaginable wealth, filled with gold vessels and centuries of accumulated tithes. This theory posits that as the Romans closed in, a group of temple priests or officials scrambled to hide this sacred treasury. They buried it in dozens of locations across the Judean wilderness and created this indestructible copper inventory so that, one day, it could be recovered. The mention of priestly items and tithes strongly supports this idea. The scroll was their insurance policy, their hope for the future. But then there's theory too, a work of folklore or allegory. Many scholars find the sheer quantity of treasure to be unbelievable. Could the Second Temple, rich as it was, have possessed over 160 tons of precious metals? It seems fantastical. These academics suggest the scroll is not a literal map, but a piece of folklore, a treasure novel popular at the time. Or, more subtly, it could be an allegorical text. In many other Dead Sea Scrolls, treasure is used as a metaphor for spiritual wisdom or divine knowledge. Perhaps the scroll is a symbolic map to esoteric secrets, not gold bars. The obscure locations could be metaphors for stages on a spiritual journey. Theory 3 takes a more cynical turn. It's a hoax or a decoy. Imagine the chaos and paranoia of the Great Revolt. Factions were fighting each other as much as they were fighting the Romans. Perhaps the scroll was a piece of deliberate disinformation. It could have been created to send rival groups, or even the Romans themselves, on a wild goose chase, wasting time and resources searching for non-existent treasure. Engraving it on copper would lend it an air of authenticity and immense importance, making the deception all the more effective. Finally, Theory 4 suggests the scroll is an outsider. It argues that the copper scroll has nothing to do with the Essene community at Qumran or the other Dead Sea Scrolls. Its unique language, material, and content set it apart. Perhaps it was hidden in the cave at a much later date. Maybe by medieval treasure hunters who had their own legends, or even by 19th century adventurers looking to create a myth. The cave was simply a convenient and ancient-looking hiding spot. This would explain why it's so different from everything else found there. The allure of the copper scroll didn't end with its discovery. It launched 1,000 modern quests. The most famous was led by John Allegro, one of the original scholars on the Dead Sea Scrolls team. In the early 1960s, he secured funding and mounted several expeditions into the Judean desert, armed with the scroll's text and a conviction that the treasure was real. He followed the cryptic clues, excavating tombs and cisterns, but his search ended in frustration, controversy, and failure. He found nothing. Since then, others have tried. Using modern technology like ground-penetrating radar and magnetometers, teams have scanned suspected sites. But the challenges are immense. 2,000 years of earthquakes, floods, erosion, and human development have completely altered the landscape. A landmark like the fig tree or the red cliff is long gone. The modern echo of the scroll is less about finding gold and more about the fierce debate it fuels. What is the nature of historical truth? Is a document true only if it records physical facts? Or is its truth found in what it reveals about the beliefs, hopes, and fears of the people who created it? The scroll exists in both worlds, the tantalizingly material and the profoundly symbolic. Ultimately, the copper scroll is a mystery of categorization. It's a secular ledger found in a sacred library, a practical inventory in a collection of spiritual wisdom. It refuses to be neatly filed away, and that's the source of its enduring power. It confronts us with a fundamental question. What would you do if you found an undeniable, ancient map to a fortune? Would you believe it? The fact that after 70 years of searching, not a single coin, not a single silver bar from its list has ever been verifiably found, might be the most important clue of all. Perhaps the real treasure was never meant to be dug up from the earth. Perhaps it was meant to be pondered, a permanent question mark, etched in metal, challenging us across the millennia. If you had the scroll and the resources for one expedition, where would you even start digging? Or would you conclude it's a different kind of map entirely? Let us know your theory in the comments below. And for more stories that lie just beyond the edge of history, subscribe to Chronicles of the Obscure.